Hey friends, a couple of questions came in related to Israel and the conflict between Israel and Palestine. And I thought that right here in front of the Sea of Galilee in Tiberias, Israel would be a fantastic place to be able to answer that question. Now, it's a complicated question. How do you resolve peace between two people who have been at war for a very long time? And the history behind it is convoluted. And one of the most important things to note about this is that there is no monolithic answer for all Palestinians or for all Israelis. The population of both are largely peace-loving people. Most people on both sides of the conflict are just great parents who would love to raise their kids well, who would love to be able to have good schooling and good economics and a good life for their family. Most of them want to have peace, and most of them would love to peacefully coexist side by side. Unfortunately, there are some elements of people who don't really want the peace at all. In particular, on the Palestinian side, there's an organization called Hamas, which stands for the Islamic Resistance Movement. And Hamas is an organization that in their charter is dedicated to the elimination of Israel. And they happen to be the political organization that's also in charge in the Palestinian territory of Gaza. Now, the hard thing about peacefully coexisting between Israel and Hamas is that Hamas wants the elimination of Israel and not that peaceful coexistence. And so there really is no amount of negotiations or treaties that will take place in order to be able to broker that kind of a peace. Instead, it's been peace through conflict, through power, and through bigger brother countries coming in and reinforcing the peace between these two smaller countries and being sure they're brokered. One interesting example is this last week when there were some people on the Temple Mount that were breaking the agreed rules on the Temple Mount. The Israel police came in to reinforce the rules, and folks from the Gaza Strip said, hey, you shouldn't be having police on the Temple Mount, especially not with rubber bullets and with pepper spray. And then they lobbed rockets into Israel, and Israel responded with some fire from aircraft, and then it all stopped. This is typical of the conflict over the last number of years, where each one will flex their muscles just a little bit towards the other one, and then peace will come back for a time. But it's not a long-term brokered peace. For 75 years, they've been working on how can they peacefully coexist with one another, and the conflicts are complicated. Nobody's innocent in the matter, and nobody is particularly guilty in the matter. Everybody has some pieces that they are culpable for. From our perspective, from the perspective of Christians, I believe that we should be pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian, and pro-Jesus. Because in both populations, there are millions of people who matter desperately to God. Our desire is that everybody would have the opportunity to know Jesus, the Prince of Peace, and I'm convinced that the number one way that peace is going to be brokered in the Middle East is not through power or negotiation, but it's through the spiritual power of Jesus intervening in people's lives. So what can Christians do to be supportive of Israel and Palestine in this? Well, number one would be to be supportive prayerfully. Anybody, anywhere in the world, can pray for the peace of Jerusalem. In fact, in the Psalms, there's a command that says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And there are folks who are Palestinians and folks who are Christians in Jerusalem. Wow, just to obey that, to come before the throne of God and to pray for the peace of Jerusalem is the most important thing that we can do. The solution to this problem is a spiritual solution, not a material solution. The other thing that we can do is we can do research. We can learn what the conflict is all about. We can hear the stories of the Palestinians and hear the stories of the people who are in Israel. And as we listen to both, we can come to a deeper understanding. Peace always begins with understanding the needs of the other person. And the last thing we can do is to be economically supportive. When there are opportunities to be supportive in the things that you buy and the things that you invest in, both of these populations are groups of people that need economic support and not economic boycotts. And so anytime you have the opportunity to invest, that's a third thing that you can do from home. Or even taking a tour group here in Israel and visiting Palestinian territories like we're going to later on this week. Bringing that kind of economics is one of the things that you can do to support both populations and help them both to be healthy. I'm convinced that Jesus loves Israel. I'm convinced that Jesus loves the Palestinians as well. And I'm convinced that we, the people of Jesus, should be pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, and pro-Jesus.